Hi, I'm Joel Jaffe with Laskey Mouthpieces, and welcome to our factory tour for Houghton Horns. The front office is a little clarinet-like, and that's because Laskey Mouthpieces are made at Backun Musical Services. We are one of the world's leading clarinet manufacturers. We started our business making clarinet accessories like our barrels and bells and mouthpieces, and pivoted later into making full-size clarinets. Because of our interest in the accessory business, we acquired Laskey Mouthpieces in 2019, moved the company up to Vancouver, Canada, and that's where we manufacture Laskey Mouthpieces today. Come with me. So down the hallway, we have one of our several practice rooms. This is where we invite artists to come and try our products, including our entire line of mouthpieces. We also have a great selection of Shires, trombones and euphoniums, as well as Eastman tubas on site, because we're part of the Eastman Music Company. So Eastman provides some of those instruments for artists to play on while they're here visiting us. Here we go down to the production floor. So this is our production floor. So with our production floor, it's broken out into several different units. We have over in this area the metalworking, that's where the Laskey mouthpieces and our Backun rubber mouthpieces are machined for the clarinets. Over in the far corner, which we're going to go to in a little while, that is our wood shop. That's where all the CNC machines are for making our clarinets, our barrels, and our bells, as well as Haynes piccolo bodies, which we manufacture for the Haynes company. Over in the far side, we have our metal finishing department, where we buff all of the mouthpieces and do all of our quality control, and you will see that in a few minutes. And then we have engineering finally tucked away in the corner, and also our inventory room. So follow me, let's go. We're here in the metal shop, or one of the metal machining areas. There are 4 multi-axis CNC machines around me. They are 4 of 14 that we have on site. These machines specifically are for the manufacturing of Laskey mouthpieces, as well as our clarinet accessories that are not wood-based. So we'll go over here, we'll take a look at this machine. This is one of our older machines. It's approximately 12 years old. It's a Mazak Integrex 100 Mark IV. We typically refer to it as the Mark IV, and there's a reason for that. This is a multi-axis, actually a 9-axis CNC machine that is capable of manufacturing any of our brass mouthpieces, from our tubas to our trombones to the horn, as well as trumpet. So if you come on over here, you get to take a look into this window, and you're actually seeing the gripper grab the mouthpiece out of the sub spindle. It's going to rise up, and then it's going to swing around and drop it in the bin. And I'm going to lift this up as it drops. So you're going to see that, and then you're going to see it flop right down here, very gently and carefully. And then it's going to go onto this conveyor belt down below. This conveyor belt racks up the mouthpieces so that when we come in the morning, there could be anywhere from 70 to 300 mouthpieces waiting for us to then take and move to our finishing department. This machine is very versatile. We make clarinet posts and clarinet metal parts for our instruments on this machine, as well as all of the mouthpieces. What's interesting to note is this has a long bar feeder. You see this ML580 bar feeder. These long bar feeders allow us to put all of the brass rods in and manufacture overnight mouthpieces. So this machine is what we call lights out manufacturing. No human has to touch it once it's turned on. If we follow all the way over here, past the tool rack and the parts rack, you see that all of our brass is recycled. So we actually load all of the brass, comes down below, and it moves up through a conveyor belt into this hopper. We unload this hopper several times a day, and all of this brass is recycled back. So we actually sell it back to the brass refinery, and it helps us keep our costs low and competitive. You'll see over here more mouthpieces that are coming through. So what we do is, as the mouthpieces come off the machine, they're held in a quarantine area for inspection and measuring, and then they go to the parts finishing area. We'll see that as we go through the tour. And of course, lots of brass slugs. So as this, for example, this piece, which is making trombone mouthpieces out of, we keep these slugs. And the reason why is we're going to be making two-piece mouthpieces eventually. So we want to reuse these slugs as best we can. It's more efficient. So we can load these slugs and manufacture parts. Follow me. This is our newest machine, which we acquired in June of 2022. This is a Nakamura Tomei SC100X squared, or X2. This is a much faster version of the larger machine you just saw. And this is really cool because it's got the bar feeder here set up, parts down in the back, so you actually peer in, you can see all the brass rods loaded, ready to go. And then it shoots these brass rods right through the main spindle inside the machine. Now, Jeremy Backun is here. He is one of our engineers and the vice president of operations. He is the person responsible for setting up all these machines. He also happens to be my cousin, but don't hold that against me. Jer is in the process of machining some horn mouthpieces. And we're going to turn off the coolant for a sec, just so you can see what the machining of this mouthpiece looks like. All right, so in there, what it's actually doing is engraving the mouthpiece. It's kind of hard to see because of the coolant that's coming off of the wall and basically shooting all over the place. Jeremy's probably going to open that up and maybe clean it off so that we can see a little better how this works. So this is the inside of the machine. This is the guts, and it's pretty cool. What we have here is a main spindle with one of the mouthpieces. We talked about that brass rod coming through the main spindle. There's an upper turret up here. So this is the upper turret. And then we have the lower turret with more tools down below, right down here. And then over here to the right is the sub spindle. What's really cool about this machine is that it passes parts from the main spindle to the sub spindle and cuts two mouthpieces at the same time. So we have double the efficiency. We've gone from making dozens of parts overnight to making hundreds of parts overnight. So that basically when our team comes in the morning, all of the mouthpieces are on the roto rack, which is behind us, and they get loaded up on these bins, which we'll also show you. And you can see the quality and consistency of the mouthpieces as they shift from main spindle to sub spindle down to the parts loader. Jeremy, let's fire it up.
Let me wash the window. Looks like a car wash when nobody's here. This is the transfer sequence that you're about to see. So it's going to take the mouthpiece, go into the lower, it's going to clamp, unclamp, pull back. That mouthpiece is going to rotate into that catch bucket. Now it's on the conveyor belt. Now the sub's going to come in, pick up the other mouthpiece, part it off, and then it's just going to rewind that entire cycle. So it's going to essentially keep going until it runs out of bar stock on the ramp over there. So you can see how it's chopping it off. Now it's going to pull back. Again we go. Pushes the stock. And there we go.
So the reason for the coolant is to keep the temperature of the metal down as well as to evacuate or clear any of the chips as we're machining it. So typically, we run with the coolant all on. We don't need to see the windows. We're going to measure the mouthpieces as they come off the CNC machine. But this process is a finely honed process in terms of how we manufacture the machines, how we load all the rods on, how we clear the parts and the chips off, and then how we take those parts through production. So you can see with this G-code up here, with this screen, it tells us all of the data that we're running. It looks like a lot of numbers, and it is. There are millions of lines of code that Jeremy and his team literally code and program and then decipher as they're running it. So this tells us where the X-axis is, the Z-axis, the C-axis, the Y-axis, and then all of the different run times and parts. So for example, we've run this machine 587 hours, 41 minutes, and 15 seconds since we acquired this machine, which is pretty cool. It also tells us all the spindle load ratings and all of the different mechanics and details that we need to make sure the machine is running healthy. Over here is one of our older machines. When we started Laskey Mouthpieces back up and relaunched the line, we did it making the horn mouthpieces on this machine, which is a Swiss-style CNC machine. We no longer use this machine because it's certainly not as efficient as the other machines. This is quite old. It's about 15 years old, or 12, 15 years old. And it runs on an oil-based coolant, which is very difficult to clean off. It leaves a residue that we then have to wash off for each piece. The water-based coolant, which is the white coolant that you saw on the other machine, is a lot cleaner and easier to work with. In the machines, they are so precise that Mazak does not want them, and the government does not want them getting into the wrong hands for weapons manufacturing. So if we move these machines more than a few meters, we have to let the companies know, and they actually come in and they disengage the GPS coordinate measuring parts on these machines. This is about $1 million a piece. With the machine and then all of the tooling, the parts, that doesn't even include the training to get our staff set up. The Nakamura took over 3 months for our team to get up and running in terms of production parts. And then each time we make a new piece, we make 1, we make 5, we make 20, we make 100, but then it takes them time to actually get all of the overnight runs set up so that when we're running an overnight piece, it's going to take us a couple weeks to get into the process of quality controlling and checking 1 piece and then 5 pieces and 10 and then 100 and then 300. We want to make sure that there's quality and consistency all the way through. So here we are in our engineering and quality control room. We actually have several quality control rooms here, but this is the one where we quality control all of our clarinet parts. So our wooden barrels, our wooden bells, and the wooden clarinet bodies, as well as where the engineering team, which is in this area, sits when they're doing a lot of the product design and development work. Right now the engineers are on the machines, they're all working on the CNC machines, or in the case of Chandra, working on the CMM, the coordinate measuring machine. But nonetheless, it gives you an idea of what the desks look like, mouthpieces everywhere. We have some of the horn mouthpieces up here that were in early development for Laskey, as well as the Alessi signature mouthpieces that, again, were in early development, plus all of the clarinet and bassoon parts that we've been working on over the years. One of the very cool things about our company is that we invest heavily in research and development. You see that with $250,000 CMM, as well as right behind Derek, who's got the camera, is a 3D part printer. This is not the same 3D printer that you see at Home Depot. This is a very expensive, very high-end, and very precise 3D printer that we use to custom make our parts. Believe it or not, we actually 3D print the mouthpieces, the Laskey mouthpieces, before we put them into production. And upstairs, when we're near the end of our tour, I'll show you our 2-piece mouthpiece, which we've been working on and have the coupling mechanism and parts for. Over here is our wood finishing department. This is Dan and Yoli, husband and wife team, and they are finishing our clarinet bodies, sanding them down and making any adjustments that are necessary to conform to the specifications. And these are the Cocobolo bodies that will be sent to our sub-manufacturer, part of the Eastman Music Company, for build-out. These are our intermediate and professional models. The custom clarinets are all made in-house in Vancouver, Canada. And then this is one of our laser engravers. So if you ever want something engraved, we can do it. I can actually lie down in here. It's not that comfortable, but the platform goes up and down. We have the laser here, and then we have all of the different spindles and parts to engrave on our wooden clarinet parts. We do not laser engrave on our metalwork pieces. The machines actually engrave with little milling heads on the mouthpieces. Follow me. So this is our CMM. It is a coordinate measuring machine. We invested in this machine during COVID because we, quite frankly, we're tired of sending out our mouthpieces for measuring. This allows us to measure down to the micron with very, very detailed rubies. So you can see these little red dots here in different sizes. So there's a larger one here, there's a smaller one here. We have other rubies over here. And this whole piece sits on a very large granite block that's precision machined, and it floats on air, which is really cool, and it allows us to get extremely precise measurements. So as I mentioned earlier, we actually measure the first mouthpiece off the production run to make sure that it conforms to our specifications, and then we measure the last one to again make sure that the entire production run conforms to the specifications that we have in the tolerances. Chandra Sharma is one of our engineers, and he is going to run this CMM program and show everybody how this works. So here we go with the ruby getting locked and loaded, and it's going to go in through the back bore first. Actually, it's going to touch off. We're going to get the concentricity of the shank. And again, this is moving up the shank so that we can get the different measurements of the actual degrees or angle of the shank, so we know what the exact measurements are, again, compared to our part drawing. Every time you hear that dot, it's touching off on the mouthpiece. And what this is going to do is it's going to go all the way through the back bore, in through the throat, and then it's going to pull back, and then it's going to go around. It's going to do the outer diameter, including the rim, all the way around the rim into the bowl or the cup, and then again down right through the throat so that we get a perfectly and seamless measurement for the mouthpiece. We do this on all of our models, whether it's horn, whether it's tuba, trombone. One of the other things we can do is we can measure people's mouthpieces. So most recently, when Gail Williams was in, she had a mouthpiece that was very near and dear to her from many years ago. We were able to measure that mouthpiece, basically put it through our post-processing software called Calypso, right into SolidWorks, and then we can machine a replica of that mouthpiece for her, literally within an hour. So again, right through the back bore, measuring the different measurements in the back bore, knowing that there's a thickness of the metal in the shank, and that shank, there are variances in terms of the thickness and the width and the angles of the back bore. Chandra, how long is this program?
Around 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Actually, it's doing a lot of alignment checks initially, so it does it 2-3 times to make sure that accuracy is maintained.
This is what we call a known part. So over on the screen, just to the right, we actually have our part loaded, which one is this? The Laskey?
French horn.
Yep.
75G.
So this is a Laskey Horn 75G part loaded. This is our production drawing. So this is measuring against the part, and then it'll give us, we design the mouthpieces and run them based on Scott Laskey's design, and we don't want variance from that. So There always is going to be some minor variance, and that is allowable, that is acceptable, but anything outside of those allowable variances, we basically recycle the mouthpiece. These are all of the scrap bins that we have. Our scrap recycler comes every week and picks up these pallets, and they basically take them, they dump them, and then they bring them back. So we actually own these pallets because they're really heavy, and we want to make sure that whatever we're collecting in here in terms of the brass, we're getting every single penny back that we can, and we're draining out all of the fluid at the same time. So we're not keeping and reporting any kind of weight that shouldn't be reported in terms of the weight of the metal. We're draining all of the fluids out. Okay, come on down here. So this is in the back corner of our warehouse facility. We are in the process of revamping our entire layout of the warehouse to bring the brass parts closer to the CNC machines. What you're looking at here are the rods for the horn mouthpieces as well as the tubas. So the tuba has the 2-inch and the horn has the 1-inch. We keep the tuba on the base level because it's the heaviest, and every single rack has a specific weight rating. So we can only store a certain number of pieces on each rack. And then what we do is we bring these huge rods in. We actually bring them in quite long lengths, in 16-foot, 10-foot, 12-foot, 8-foot lengths, and then we cut them down to go on the machine. The reason for that is that it's basically a safety issue for the staff. We don't want the staff having to lift these huge bars of 2-inch round brass. They're crazy heavy. I'm just gonna lean in, grab one of the bars. This is a 1.5 inch that we use for trombone. So for the Alessi Signature and the Laskey Classic, but it's really, really heavy. And if you look inside this bin, you will see hundreds and hundreds of rods. It's fascinating because when we first acquired the Laskey company, it took us about 1.5 years to get the mouthpieces into development. We went for the first year, just watch yourself behind you. We went for the first year of machining 1,800 mouthpieces to basically now machining over 14,000 units a year. That's thanks to all of the artists and all the customers that choose Laskey, as well as the Eastman Music Company, which includes our mouthpieces in their student, intermediate, and professional models, which is amazing. Over here are the brass rods for the tuba. These are the 2-inch rods. They are really heavy. I like to work out here sometime in the morning. No need to go to the gym when we have all of this brass. During the summer, because of our wood manufacturing, you see all the wood behind you for the clarinets. We actually have these large porta-cool units. They're wrapped up now, but they are a temperature and humidity control device that we use to make sure that we have proper temperature and humidity for all of the wood that we store. We have millions of dollars of wood inventory in-house, in addition to all the great brass for the Laskey mouthpieces. And of course, so many people love our tubes. These are the recyclable tubes, reusable tubes, crush-proof tubes that we use for Laskey mouthpieces. So we order these by the tens of thousands, and they're stored up in the manufacturing warehouse up above us. Come on over here, and you are going to see all of our stations for buffing. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 over there tucked in the corner. All of our staff here are cross-trained, so they actually can manufacture or buff a Laskey mouthpiece, but when they're not doing that, they buff parts for our clarinets. So for example, you're seeing up here Laskey tuba mouthpieces. This is the 32K US. K is for Kerrigan, Chuck Kerrigan, who's the low brass product manager for Eastman. This is a mouthpiece that he developed. And then we have our clarinet parts. So this is our thumb rest for a custom clarinet. So our team are multi-talented and multifunctional in the work that they do. All the way down here, you are going to see our quality control area. So I mentioned we have 2 QC areas. This is the second one. There's the wood one over there, in the far corner of the facility, and then in this area is where we QC the incoming mouthpieces that are plated. So if I lift this up here, this is a trombone. This is the Laskey Signature 60 Symphony. So 60 stands for the rim, Symphony stands for the depth of bowl. This is a large shank. There should be 29 units in here, and these are fresh from the platers. So what we do is when these mouthpieces come back from the platers, our team, who is led by Ian, who's sitting there over there in the corner, what they will do is they will QC every single mouthpiece. They'll take a look at them. They'll note if there's a mark on it or a nick that needs to be buffed out and cleaned. And basically quality control all the mouthpieces. They put them back in the bins, number them according to the production number. So in this case, our production number is 2583 that this batch is from. And then it goes into our inventory room for packaging. And the reason is that in this production area, there are some fine dust and particles up in the air, which is why we cover these. In the inventory room, there is none of that. It's a very tightly controlled environment. So you can see over here, Ian's got his mouthpieces, and then he's got his buffing unit here set up so that if he needs to buff or clean any parts off. All right, so a little known secret of Laskey Mouthpieces being part of the Eastman Music Company is that we're getting pretty deep into brass mouthpieces and marching brass mouthpieces. So what you're seeing right here is the first production run of the Laskey Stadium series. This is a series that was developed for Shires to go with Eastman brass instruments, marching brass instruments, the sousaphones, the mellophones, etc. We now have 3 models designed. So this is the Stadium Contra or sousaphone mouthpiece. It's quite a heavy blank. And these are now in production, having been approved. And then over behind us, over here, are more mouthpieces that are coming through production. So these are the Laskey Classic trombone mouthpieces, the 57MD large shank. We have the 57D large shank, the 59D large shank, all the way down to the Alessi models as well, the 55 solos, the 60s. Once these are all quality controlled before plating, they are wrapped up in these cool little Kim wipes, and they're labeled individually, and then they are sent to the platers. We use the same plating company that Scott Laskey used many, many years ago to maintain the quality and the consistency that he designed into his mouthpieces. So you see all the different tuba mouthpieces on this shelf. The reason that there are so few right here is that we literally just ship several thousand tuba mouthpieces out to the platers, which we do on a pallet basically every week. So we're shipping a lot of mouthpieces right now. We have 30Ks, 28Ks, etc. And if you follow me over here, this is one of the final areas. There's 2 more to show you. This is the, let's call it prep area. So what we're doing here is we're ultrasonic cleaning the mouthpieces. This is actually the same ultrasonic cleaner that Scott Laskey used and owned. We brought it back from Chicago when we closed up the facility. What we do is we actually steam the mouthpieces first on steamers, and that's to remove any of the particles or any kind of foreign materials, any of the buffing rouge that is on the mouthpieces. And then what we do is we put them in the ultrasonic cleaner, and then they come out, they're inspected, they're wipe and packed, and then they're sent off to the plating company. So it's pretty cool. And then again here, all of the Laskey horn mouthpieces and tuba down below. These shelves are pretty bare because again, we just sent a massive run to the platers. We don't do any plating in-house because plating is a very specific skill that we do not have. One of the last and final areas, aside from the really awesome freezer that's stocked with ice cream bars and ice cream cones, but we don't need to talk about that, is the inventory room. Here we go. First thing you're going to notice about the inventory room is how quiet it is. This is temperature and humidity controlled. We have filters to filter out the air so that there are no foreign particles, because this is where we do all of the wipe and pack for the packages of our retail products. So if you come around the corner here, you will see all the rows of mouthpieces. We work in a program that was designed for the automotive industry called just-in-time manufacturing. So we don't stock a ton of mouthpieces, but we stock enough to fill daily orders. For the larger master orders and quarterly orders, we actually make those to suit. But what you're seeing right now, as specific to Houghton horns right over here, is the horn shelf. It's over here and up here. Blue is silver mouthpieces. Black are our demo or trial mouthpieces. Those are mouthpieces that have a cosmetic flaw or were sent out on trial and perhaps have some kind of mark on the shank that can't be removed. And you're seeing all of these mouthpieces here are tubed and ready to be sent to dealers like Houghton horns. So whenever the team at Houghton calls for 75G US mouthpieces, American shank, well, we literally have hundreds of them ready to go and in stock. So if you want a 75F American shank, well, yeah, we've probably got about 50 of those too in stock. And we're perpetually and constantly running new mouthpieces to fill our inventory needs. Over on the other side, when you look up, you're going to see the yellow bins. Those are for gold mouthpieces. We don't stock a lot of gold mouthpieces. They are custom ordered or made to order. But in some cases, artists and dealers need a 80 GW or an 85 GW in gold. And yeah, we'll probably have that in stock as well. One of the very cool things that is happening now is the Laskey Protege series, which are our affordable mouthpieces. And these ones that are not in tubes here, these are actually going to Eastman to be put in all of the Eastman French horns for their production. So these are an OEM product that we make, and we do not tube them because they go right inside the cases. Over here, this is a new design that we have during COVID. When things slowed down for us, we took the time to set up a lot of infrastructure. So very much like a library system of rails and storage shelves. We actually got 41% more storage space in this area. So this actually is where we have all of our Backun parts. So we have Leger reeds, which we sell on our website. The Vocalese TM2 saxophone mouthpieces made by Backun for Timothy McAllister and designed by Richard Hawkins. So we have these in inventory ready to pull, pack, and ship at any given point. And then to the other side, we have our infamous and very well-known Backun barrels. So these are the 67.5 millimeter MOBA barrels, which we have here. Some of our larger bins, you're saying, well, why do we have medium-sized bins, small bins, and large bins? That's based on the inventory levels. So for the 65 millimeter, that's our most popular barrel length. That's why we have this. And then, of course, up top, all of the swag in and around. We have different shirts and all the different Backun shirts and Laskey shirts. And one of my favorite things is over here. This is, let me just see this right here. So these are all the Laskey kits, and the kits are specifically meant for dealers or for studio trials. So in this case, it's a Laskey trombone kit. All of the foams are custom designed for us. In this case, this is one of our sample kits, so we're just testing this out, testing a new foam out. So you can see the different 57E, that's the euphonium mouthpiece, one of the raw brass mouthpieces, inside with a thick foam so that the mouthpieces don't move around, and then a softer foam to cushion the rims so that the mouthpieces don't move in transportation. And then, of course, you have your Laskey pencils and all of your Laskey stickers. They are always in stock for any dealer that wants them. So don't forget to ask for your Laskey sticker. Any questions so far?
No, this has all been very fascinating. And this is an impressive facility.
Thank you. Well, it's pretty cool what we do. I'm very happy with the work that the team does, and we have an amazing team. I'm very, very proud to say that our staff turnover is extremely low. We have great benefits, and we take care of our staff, and they take care of us and our customers.